What would you do if your sister called you embarrassing at a dinner party after you'd spent $132,000 putting her through college? Well, I cut off her student loans. And what happened next changed both our lives forever. I never thought I'd be telling this story, but here we are. My name is Alex. I'm 34 and I own Parker Plumbing Company here in Michigan. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. A woman plumber. Trust me, I've heard every joke in the book. But let me back up a bit. I grew up in what you'd call a real working class home. My dad was a contractor, hands always stained with sawdust and paint. My mom, she was the school librarian, the kind who could find any book you needed, and somehow always had band-aids in her purse. They weren't rich, but they were solid, honest, the kind of people who paid their bills on time and helped their neighbors without expecting anything back. When I graduated high school, all my friends were filling out college applications, stressed about SATs and student loans. Me, I had a different plan. I looked at my dad coming home every night, exhausted, but proud of what he'd built with his hands. And I knew that's what I wanted. Not a desk job. Not a degree on the wall. I wanted to fix things, make them work better than before. So while everyone else headed off to college, I started my apprenticeship. Yeah, it was tough. I was usually the only woman on job sites dealing with guys who thought I was there to take orders or fetch coffee. But I kept my head down, learned everything I could, and by 25, I had saved enough to start Parker Plumbing Company. Things were good. Really good. My business was growing, I had steady clients, and I was finally proving that I could make it in this industry. Then, everything changed in one horrible night. It was a Tuesday in March. I remember because I was working late finishing up a big commercial job downtown. My phone rang at 11:30 p.m. You know that feeling when your phone rings that late? Your stomach just drops because you know it's not good news. Maya was 14, just a freshman in high school worried about algebra tests and whether some boy liked her back. In one moment, she lost everything. And I became the only family she had left. Standing in that sterile hospital hallway, holding my baby sister, while she sobbed, I made a promise. The same promise my parents would have made, if they could have. Maya was going to get every opportunity they couldn't give her. She was going to college. She was going to have the life they dreamed of for both of us. And you know what? She was brilliant. Always had been. While I was good with my hands, Maya was good with books, with ideas, with words. She could write essays that made you cry, solve math problems that made my head spin, and debate politics like she was already running for office. When her acceptance letter came from Eastwood University, I cried. Actually cried. Eastwood isn't just any college. It's one of those places where senators send their kids where families have buildings named after them. $58,000 a year in tuition alone. That's not counting room and board books or any of the 1,000 little expenses that add up. I did the math. 4 years would cost me over $200,000. That was more than most people's houses. But looking at Maya's face when she opened that letter, seeing pure joy for the first time since our parents died, I knew I'd find a way. So I found a way. I started taking every job I could get. Weekends, holidays, middle of the night, emergency calls. Christmas morning, if someone's pipes burst, I was there. 4th of July. Same thing. While other people were barbecuing with their families, I was crawling under houses or fixing water heaters. Maya didn't just get tuition money, she got everything. The nice apartment near campus instead of the dorms. Money for clothes, for food, for spring break trips with her new friends. When she called asking for an extra $500 for some social event, I never said no. How could I? This was her shot at the life our parents wanted for her. And she was thriving. God, she was thriving. Every time we talked, it was about some new friend she'd made, some professor who loved her work, some opportunity that had opened up. She started dating this guy, Ryan Hamilton. Even his name sounded expensive. You know, his family owned some kind of investment firm. had houses in 3 different states. I was so proud of her. This girl who'd lost everything at 14 was now moving in circles I couldn't even imagine. She was becoming the woman our parents knew she could be. But lately, something felt different about our conversations. Shorter, less detailed. She used to tell me everything about her classes, her friends, even what she had for lunch. Now it was just, "Everything's great, Alex. Thanks for the money." Last week, she called me with what should have been good news. "Ryan's family is having their annual Christmas party," she said. "It's this huge thing they do every year. All their family, friends, business associates, everyone who's anyone in their social circle." I was excited for her. This sounded like exactly the kind of networking opportunity our parents would have wanted her to have. Then she said, "I want you to come." My heart jumped. After all these years of hearing about her college life secondhand, she wanted me to be part of it, to meet these people who were becoming so important to her. But there was something in her voice, something I couldn't quite put my finger out. A hesitation, like she was reading from a script and wasn't sure about her lines. "That sounds wonderful," I told her. "I'd love to meet Ryan and his family." There was a pause, just long enough to make me wonder what she wasn't saying. "Great," she finally said. "It's going to be really nice, really upscale. You'll love it." Upscale. Why did that word make my stomach twist? I should have trusted that gut feeling, because over the next few months I started noticing things. Little things at first. Changes in how Maya talked, how she carried herself, even how she laughed. It was like she was becoming someone else entirely. The first red flag came during Thanksgiving break. Maya brought a friend home, this girl named Sarah, who spoke like she had marbles in her mouth and kept checking her phone every 30 seconds. When I walked into the kitchen, still wearing my work clothes coveralls and all, Maya practically jumped out of her skin. "Oh, Sarah, this is Alex," she said. Not, "This is my sister Alex," or "This is Alex who raised me." Just Alex, like I was the neighbor who stopped by to borrow sugar. "Nice to meet you," Sarah said, barely looking up from her phone. "Maya mentioned you run some kind of local business." Local business. That's how Maya had described Parker Plumbing to her friend. Not, "My sister owns a successful plumbing company," or "Alex built her business from nothing." Just some kind of local business. Later that night, I asked Maya about it. "Why didn't you tell Sarah I was your sister?" She got defensive immediately. "I did tell her. I mentioned it. She probably just forgot." But she hadn't forgotten. Sarah didn't know because Maya hadn't told her. And that was just the beginning. The next time Maya came home, she had stories about Ryan's family, how his dad owned this investment firm, how his mom was on the board of some charity that raised millions of dollars every year, how they had a house in the Hamptons and another one in Aspen. "Ryan's parents are so sophisticated," she gushed. "His mom went to Wellesley and his dad has an MBA from Wharton. They know everyone who matters in the city." I tried to be happy for her. Really, I did. But there was something in the way she said it, like she was comparing them to something and finding that something lacking. Then came the conversation that really should have been my wake-up call. We were talking about some event she'd attended, and she mentioned how people were asking about her family background. "I told them we came from a small real estate background," she said casually. I nearly choked on my coffee. Real estate background. Well, Dad was in construction, right? That's kind of like real estate development if you think about it. Our dad wasn't a real estate developer. He was a contractor who built decks and fixed roofs and took pride in honest work. But apparently, that wasn't good enough for Maya's new world. By December, the changes were impossible to ignore. Maya had started talking differently, using words like summer as a verb and saying things were divine instead of just good. She name-dropped restaurants I'd never heard of and designers I couldn't pronounce. My office assistant Emma noticed it too. Emma's been with me for 3 years, sharp as a tack and doesn't miss much. One Tuesday afternoon, after Maya had called asking for money for some formal dress, Emma shut my office door. Alex, can I say something without you getting mad? Shoot, your sister's changing, and not in a good way. Emma had met Maya dozens of times over the years. She'd watched her go from a grieving teenager to a confident college student. But this version of Maya was different. She used to ask about the business, about our clients, about what jobs we were working on, Emma said. Now she barely acknowledges what you do. It's like she's embarrassed by it. I wanted to defend Maya, but the words stuck in my throat because deep down I knew Emma was right. My best friend Heather was even more blunt. Heather and I have known each other since we were 12. She's the kind of friend who'll tell you when you have spinach in your teeth or when the guy you're dating is a loser. She doesn't sugarcoat anything. Alex, you need to wake up, she said over drinks one Friday night. Maya's treating you like her personal ATM, not her sister. When's the last time she asked how you were doing? When's the last time she said thank you? I tried to remember and honestly couldn't. She's 22 years old, Heather continued. She should be grateful, not entitled. You're not her ATM, you're her sister. The sister who sacrificed everything to give her opportunities you never had. But I kept making excuses. Maya was just trying to fit in. She was young. She'd find her way back to who she really was. Then came the call about the Christmas party. So Ryan's family does this huge Christmas dinner every year, Maya said. It's at their house, which is absolutely gorgeous, by the way. Like something out of a magazine. That sounds lovely, I said. I really want you to come. I think it would be good for you to see this side of my life. This side of her life. As opposed to what the side where she had a sister who worked 60-hour weeks to pay for her education. I'd love to come, I said, and I meant it. Despite everything, I wanted to be part of her world. I wanted to meet these people who were so important to her. Great. So it's going to be pretty upscale, like really upscale. You'll want to dress nice. Maybe that black dress you wore to Cousin Julie's wedding. I could work with that. I had nice clothes for special occasions. And Alex, her voice got that careful tone again. Maybe don't mention the plumbing stuff too much. These people, they're just different. They might not understand. There it was. Don't mention the plumbing stuff. Don't mention the thing that paid for her entire college education. Don't mention the career I'd built from nothing. The business I was proud of, the work that let her live like a princess at one of the most expensive universities in the country. What should I tell them I do? I asked, trying to keep my voice level. Just say you own a business. Keep it general. Keep it general. Like I was ashamed of what I did. Like fixing people's problems and keeping their homes running wasn't worth talking about. But I agreed. Because I loved her. And I wanted this to go well, and maybe if I could just get through one night, I could prove to her sophisticated friends that working-class people weren't so bad after all. The night of the party, I spent an hour getting ready. The black dress, my good shoes, even put on makeup, which I never do for work. I looked in the mirror and barely recognized myself, which maybe was the point. I decided to bring something. It felt wrong showing up empty-handed, and our mom had raised us better than that. So I made our family's green bean casserole, the same recipe our mom used every Christmas with the crispy onions on top and the mushroom soup that made it taste like comfort food heaven. I know what you're thinking, a casserole to an upscale dinner party. But this wasn't just any casserole. This was family. This was tradition. This was the dish Maya used to help me make every Christmas morning, standing on a step stool, to reach the counter asking if she could add the onions. I figured Maya's new friends could use a little taste of what real family traditions looked like. I pulled up to Ryan's house at exactly 7 p.m., casserole dish in hand, nervous but excited to finally meet the people who'd become so important to my sister. The house was massive, like genuinely massive. 3 stories, perfect landscaping, and more windows than I could count. Cars in the circular driveway that cost more than most people's annual salaries. I rang the doorbell, smoothed down my dress one more time, and waited. When the door opened, I was greeted by a woman who had to be Ryan's mother. Perfectly styled blonde hair pearls that probably cost more than my truck, and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "You must be Alex," she said, looking me up and down like she was appraising livestock. Yes, nice to meet you, I said, holding up the casserole dish. I brought something for dinner. Her eyes fixed on that dish like I'd brought a live snake into her foyer. The smile got even more strained. How thoughtful, she said in a tone that suggested it was anything but thoughtful. That's when I heard Maya's voice from the dining room, bright and cheerful and completely fake. Oh, good Alex is here, everyone. This is Alex, the one I told you about. Not my sister Alex. Not Alex who raised me. Just Alex, the one I told you about. I walked into that dining room carrying my mother's casserole recipe, wearing my best dress, ready to be part of Maya's new world. What I found was a table full of people staring at me like I'd just crashed their private party. The dining room was straight out of a magazine, crystal chandelier table that could seat 12 china that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage. And sitting around it were 5 people who looked like they'd stepped out of a country club catalog. There was Ryan, of course. Tall, perfectly styled hair, wearing a sweater that probably cost more than my work boots. Sarah was there too, the friend from Thanksgiving, looking even more polished than I remembered. 2 other people I didn't recognize, a couple who radiated old money from their perfectly coordinated outfits to their identical smug expressions. Everyone, this is Alex, Maya announced, her voice bright and artificially cheerful. She's helping with the food tonight. Helping with the food. Not, this is my sister. Not, this is Alex who raised me. Not even, this is Alex, my family. I was someone helping with the food. I stood there holding my casserole dish, feeling like I was in some kind of nightmare. The woman next to Sarah looked at the dish and then at me with barely concealed amusement. Oh, are you the caterer? She asked with a little laugh. How delightful. Homemade food is so charming. I waited for Maya to correct her, to say, no, this is my sister Alex. But Maya just stood there frozen like a deer in headlights. Actually, I'm Maya's sister, I said because somebody had to say it. The silence that followed was deafening. You could have heard a pin drop on that expensive hardwood floor. Ryan recovered first, though his smile looked painted on. Oh wow, Maya's sister. She's told us so much about you. That was a lie and we all knew it. Please sit down, Ryan's mother said, gesturing to a chair at the far end of the table. Away from everyone else. Like I might contaminate them if I got too close. I set my casserole dish on the sideboard next to their elegant serving pieces. It looked so out of place among their silver platters and crystal bowls, like a dandelion in a rose garden. The conversation resumed carefully polite and completely superficial. They talked about their winter vacation plans, about some charity gala, about restaurants I'd never heard of. I tried to follow along, but it was like listening to a foreign language. Then Sarah turned to me with that fake smile people use when they're about to ask a question they already know the answer to. So, Alex, what do you do? I glanced at Maya, remembering her warning about keeping it general. But looking at her face, seeing how terrified she was, something rebellious sparked in me. I'm a plumber, I said. I own Parker Plumbing Company. Ryan's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. A plumber, like an actual plumber. That's right. So you're like a plumber, like toilets and pipes and all that? There was something in his tone that made my skin crawl, like he was talking to a zoo animal instead of a person. Among other things, yes, I said, starting to feel defensive. I do residential and commercial work, water heater installations, leak repairs, full bathroom renovations. I've got 12 employees now and we're booked solid through next spring. I was proud of my business. Damn proud. I'd built it from nothing, earned every client through quality work and fair prices. But looking around that table, I might as well have told them I collected garbage for a living. That's so interesting, the older woman said in a tone that suggested it was anything but interesting. Very hands-on work. Maya jumped in, clearly trying to change the subject. Alex is really successful. She's done very well for herself. But Ryan wasn't done. I have to ask, doesn't it bother you? getting all dirty and crawling around under houses. I mean, it's not exactly what most women aspire to, right? The table went quiet again. Everyone was staring at me, waiting for my answer. Maya looked like she wanted to disappear into her chair. Actually, I love what I do, I said, my voice getting stronger. There's something really satisfying about fixing problems, about making things work better than they did before. When someone's hot water heater breaks in the middle of winter, and I can get it running again, that matters. When a family's basement is flooding and I can stop it, that makes a difference in their lives. How noble, Sarah said with a little smirk. Very blue collar of you. That's when Maya cut me off. Alex, maybe we should talk about something else. Something else. Like my career, my passion, the thing that had paid for her entire college education, was an embarrassing topic that needed to be avoided. The conversation moved on without me. They talked about their spring break plans, about some mutual friend who just bought a house in Martha's Vineyard, about investment strategies I didn't understand and didn't care to learn. I sat there eating food I couldn't taste, watching my sister laugh at jokes that weren't funny, pretending to be someone she wasn't. Every few minutes, she'd glance at me with this pleading look, like she was begging me to just play along. Then came the moment that broke everything. They were talking about some leak in Sarah's apartment building, and Ryan mentioned how much they'd had to pay for emergency repairs. It's ridiculous how much plumbers charge, Sarah said, rolling her eyes. Like you're literally just turning a wrench. How hard can it be? I felt my jaw clench, but I stayed quiet. Oh, but I guess it's important to know a plumber. She continued, looking directly at me with that same smug smile. You know, when your penthouse springs a leak. Very convenient for Maya. She was mocking me, making it clear that in her mind I was just the help. Someone Maya kept around for practical purposes. I looked at Maya, waiting for her to say something. Anything. To defend me, to defend the work that had given her everything she had. Instead, Maya laughed. She actually laughed along with Sarah's cruel joke, like it was the funniest thing she'd ever heard. Something inside me shattered. This was my sister, the girl I'd raised from 14, the girl I'd sacrificed everything for, and she was laughing while her friends mocked the work that had paid for her entire life. I stood up slowly, my chair scraping against the floor. Alex, where are you going? Maya asked, still smiling like this was all perfectly normal. I think I should head home, I said quietly. What? No, don't be silly. Sit down. We're just having fun. Just having fun. She thought watching me get humiliated was fun. Maya, can I talk to you privately for a second? Her face changed, panic flashing in her eyes. Whatever you want to say, you can say it here. We're all friends. Friends. These people weren't my friends. They weren't even good people. I just think maybe I should go, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. That's when Maya snapped. God, Alex, you're being so dramatic. This is exactly what I was worried about. You're embarrassing me. The room went dead silent. Even Sarah stopped smirking. Embarrassing you, I repeated. Yes. You show up with that casserole like we're at some church potluck. You talk about plumbing at a dinner party. You can't just blend in for one night. Each word hit me like a physical blow. This was what she really thought of me. I was an embarrassment. Something to be hidden, managed, apologized for. Maya, just go, okay, please. You don't belong here. You don't belong here. Those 5 words hung in the air like smoke. Everyone at that table heard them. Everyone knew what she meant. I didn't belong in her new world. I didn't belong with her educated friends and their trust funds and their summer houses. I was just the plumber sister who needed to know her place. I picked up my purse, walked to the sideboard, and retrieved my casserole dish. Still, full, untouched. Nobody had even tried it. It was nice meeting all of you, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Maya called after me as I headed for the door. Alex, wait. I didn't mean... But she had meant it, that was the problem. I walked out of that house into the December night, my breath visible in the cold air, carrying my mother's casserole recipe like a shield. Behind me, I could hear voices through the windows. Probably Maya explaining to her friends why her embarrassing sister had finally left. I sat in my truck for a full 5 minutes before I could trust myself to drive. The snow was starting to fall, dusting the windshield of my beat-up Ford while I stared at that perfect house with its perfect lights and its perfect people inside. The girl I'd raised, the girl I'd sacrificed everything for, had just told me I didn't belong in her life. And maybe for the first time in 8 years, I was starting to think she might be right. I made it exactly 3 blocks before I had to pull over. The tears came all at once. 8 years of holding everything together, just falling apart in the front seat of my truck. I'm not usually a crier. Ask anyone who knows me. But sitting there with the snow falling and my mother's untouched casserole in the passenger seat, I sobbed like a child. "You don't belong here." Those words kept echoing in my head. My sister, the girl I'd raised, the girl I'd sacrificed everything for, had looked me in the eye and told me I didn't belong in her life. I drove home in a daze, parked in my driveway, and just sat there for another 20 minutes. My little house looked so small and ordinary after that mansion. Normal. Real. Like something a working person could actually afford because they'd earned it. Inside, I put the casserole in the refrigerator and poured myself a glass of wine, then another. I was halfway through the bottle when my phone buzzed with a text from Maya. "Alex, I'm sorry about tonight. You know I didn't mean it that way. You just overreacted a little. Why couldn't you just play along for one night?" I stared at that message for a long time. No real apology, no acknowledgement of what she'd actually done. Just blame. I'd overreacted. I should have played along. Played along with pretending I was ashamed of the work that had given her everything, with letting her friends mock me while she laughed, with being treated like hired help in exchange for continuing to pay her bills. I didn't text back. I couldn't. What was I supposed to say? The next morning, I woke up with a wine headache and a heart that felt like it had been put through a blender. I called in sick to work, which I never do, and spent the day in my pajamas trying to make sense of what had happened. By evening, I was ready to talk to someone who wasn't Maya. I called Heather. "I'm coming over," she said as soon as I told her about the dinner. "And I'm bringing reinforcements." 30 minutes later, Heather showed up with Emma and 3 bottles of wine. Emma had closed the office early, which tells you how worried they were about me. "Okay," Heather said, settling onto my couch with a glass of wine that was more like a goblet. "Tell us everything, and don't leave out a single horrible detail." So I did. I told them about the casserole, about being introduced to someone helping with the food, about the jokes and the sneers and the way Maya had just stood there letting it happen. I told them about those 5 words that had cut me to the bone. Emma was furious. "She called you embarrassing, the woman who's been paying her bills for 8 years? "It gets worse," I said, and told them about the text message. Heather set down her wine glass hard enough to rattle the coffee table. "Are you kidding me? She's making this your fault." "Maybe I did overreact," I said, though I didn't really believe it. "Bull," Emma said. "Alex, you sat there and took abuse from people who wouldn't last 5 minutes doing what you do. And your sister, instead of standing up for you, threw you under the bus to impress her snobby friends." "How much have you spent on her education?" Heather asked quietly. I knew the number by heart. I'd been tracking every penny for 8 years. $132,000 so far. The room went silent. "Say that again," Emma said. $132,000. "Jesus Christ," Heather whispered. "Alex, that's more than some people make in 3 years." "And she called you embarrassing," Emma added. "The woman who's been working herself to death to pay for her princess lifestyle." They were right, and I knew they were right, but admitting it felt like giving up on Maya completely. "She's young," I said weakly. "She's just trying to fit in." "She's 22? Heather shot back. "At 22, you were running your own business and taking care of a teenager. She's old enough to know better." We sat there for a while, the weight of those numbers hanging in the air. $132,000. Money I could have used to expand my business, to buy a bigger house, to take a vacation, to do literally anything for myself. How much is left? Emma asked. I pulled up my banking app on my phone. Maya's education fund was a separate account I'd set up 8 years ago. Every month I put money in. Every semester the university took it out. 84,000, I said. Her senior year tuition plus living expenses through graduation. Heather leaned forward. Alex, can I ask you something? Sure. When's the last time Maya said thank you? I opened my mouth to answer, then closed it. I tried to remember the last time Maya had acknowledged what I was doing for her, the last time she'd shown any gratitude for the sacrifices I was making. I couldn't. When's the last time she asked how you were doing? Emma added. When's the last time she showed any interest in your life, your business, anything that wasn't about her? Again, nothing. When's the last time she even called you her sister instead of making up some story about local businesses or real estate backgrounds? The silence stretched on. My friends were asking questions I'd been afraid to ask myself. She's using you, Heather said gently. I know that's hard to hear, but Alex? She's using you. And worse than that, she's ashamed of you? The woman who gave up everything to raise her is apparently an embarrassment. That night, after Heather and Emma left, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop and my banking information spread out in front of me. I pulled up Maya's education fund and stared at that number. $84,000. Money I'd earned fixing pipes and installing water heaters and crawling under houses. Money I'd saved by working weekends and holidays while Maya was at parties and spring break trips. Money that represented years of my life. I thought about my parents, about the promise I'd made to give Maya every opportunity. But would they have wanted this? Would they have wanted Maya to become someone who was ashamed of where she came from? Someone who treated family like an inconvenience? I picked up my phone and looked at Maya's text again. You overreacted. Why couldn't you just play along for one night, like it was just one night of pretending her sister didn't exist? Like it was no big deal to stand by while people mocked the work that had given her everything. I opened my banking app and stared at that transfer button. $84,000, Maya's future, or maybe finally a piece of my own. The next tuition payment was due in 10 days. $29,000 for spring semester. Money that would come out of that account automatically like it had for the last 3.5 years. Except this time, I did something different. I transferred the entire education fund back to my business account. All $84,000. My hands were shaking as I confirmed the transfer. This was it. This was the line in the sand. I wasn't angry. I wasn't trying to hurt Maya. I was just tired. Tired of being taken for granted. Tired of being ashamed of work I loved. Tired of funding a lifestyle for someone who thought I was an embarrassment. I closed the laptop and went to bed. For the first time in 8 years, I didn't lie awake worrying about Maya's bills or her future, or whether I was doing enough for her. I slept better than I had in months. 5 days later, Maya got an email from the university's financial aid office. Her tuition payment had been declined. If the balance wasn't paid within 5 days, she would be dropped from her classes. My phone started ringing 20 minutes after that email was sent. I was at a job site installing a new water heater for an elderly couple whose old one had given out. I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again. And again. By the time I finished the job and checked my phone, I had 17 missed calls from Maya and 12 text messages that got progressively more frantic. The last one just said, "Call me now." I drove home instead. Whatever conversation we were about to have, it needed to happen face to face. Maya was waiting in my driveway when I got home, pacing back and forth like a caged animal, her designer coat looking out of place next to my modest house. The second she saw my truck, she marched over like she was ready for war. "What the hell did you do?" she screamed before I even got out. The university says my tuition payment bounced. They're dropping me from classes. I took my time getting out of the truck, grabbing my tool bag from the back. I moved the money back to my business account. You what? Her voice cracked. Alex, you can't do this. I'll lose everything. I'll lose my scholarship. My friends. Ryan, your scholarship? I stopped walking toward the house. Maya, you don't have a scholarship. I've been paying your full tuition for 8 years. She stared at me like I'd slapped her. You know what I mean. My financial aid, You don't have financial aid either. It's been me. Just me. For 8 years. The reality seemed to hit her all at once. Her face went white, then red, then back to white again. You can't just stop, she said, her voice getting desperate. I'm in my senior year. I graduate in 4 months. You can't destroy my future because you got your feelings hurt at one dinner party. Got my feelings hurt, that's what she thought this was about. I unlocked my front door and walked inside. She followed, still talking, still making demands. Alex, please. I'm sorry about the other night. Okay, I'm sorry. I was nervous and I said things I didn't mean. But you can't punish me for one mistake. I set my tool bag down and turned to face her. For the first time in 8 years, I really looked at my sister. The designer clothes, the perfect makeup, the manicured nails that had never seen a day of real work. This wasn't the girl I'd raised. This was someone else entirely. Maya, sit down. I don't want to sit down. I want you to fix this. Transfer the money back. Pay the tuition. Make this right. Sit down, I repeated more firmly this time. She finally sat perched on the edge of my couch like she was afraid it might contaminate her expensive clothes. I can't keep doing this, I said simply. Doing what? Paying for college? Alex, it's 4 more months. 4 months and I'll graduate and get a job and pay you back. When have you ever talked about paying me back in 8 years? When have you ever mentioned that this was a loan? She opened her mouth, then closed it. And it's not just about the money, Maya. It's about who you've become. You're ashamed of me. You're ashamed of the work that's paid for your entire life. I'm not ashamed. You introduced me as someone helping with the food. You laughed when your friends mocked what I do. You told me I don't belong in your life. Tears started streaming down her face, but I couldn't tell if they were real or performative. I was trying to fit in. You don't understand the pressure I'm under with these people. And then maybe they're not your people. She looked at me like I'd suggested she cut off her own arm. Alex, please. I'll apologize to Ryan's family. I'll tell them the truth about everything. I'll make it right. It's not about them, Maya. It's about us. It's about the fact that you think the work I love is something to be embarrassed about. It's about the fact that you've never once asked how I'm doing, or said thank you, or even acknowledged what I've sacrificed for you. I know you've sacrificed! Do you really? Do you know that I've worked every Christmas for the last 8 years while you were on vacation? Do you know that I haven't taken a single day off because every penny goes to your education? Do you know that I drive a truck with 200,000 miles on it because I can't afford a new one? She was crying harder now, but I wasn't done. Do you know that I'm 34 years old and I've never been in a serious relationship because I don't have time to date? Do you know that my friends think I'm crazy for working myself to death for someone who doesn't even call me her sister? Alex, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please, just tell me what you want me to do. I want you to figure out how to pay for your own education. Her face went white again. How am I supposed to do that? Tuition is $29,000. I don't have that kind of money. There are options. You can apply for financial aid, real financial aid. You can get a job. You can transfer to a state school. You can take a semester off and save money. Those aren't options. Those are punishments. And there it was. The real Maya, the one who thought having to work for something was a punishment. You're being vindictive, she said, standing up. You're destroying my life because you're jealous of my success. Jealous. She thought I was jealous. Maya, I think you should leave. Fine. But when I lose everything, when my future is ruined, I hope you're happy. I hope it was worth it." She stormed out, slamming my door hard enough to rattle the windows. I watched through the curtains as she got into her BMW, the one I'd helped her buy, and sped away. I sat in my quiet house for a long time after that, wondering if I'd just made the biggest mistake of my life. The next few weeks were radio silence. No calls, no texts, no visits. It was like Maya had vanished from my life completely. I threw myself into work, taking on extra jobs, staying busy so I wouldn't have time to second-guess myself. Then, 3 weeks after our fight, I got a call from Dr. Collins, Maya's academic advisor. "Ms. Parker, this is Dr. Collins from Eastwood University. I hope you don't mind me calling, but Maya listed you as her emergency contact." My heart dropped. "Is she okay? What happened?" "Oh, she's fine physically. I'm calling because I wanted to update you on her situation. She's applied for emergency financial aid and several grants. She's also picked up a job at the campus coffee shop." A job. Maya had gotten a job. "I have to say," Dr. Collins continued, "I've been Maya's advisor for 4 years, and I've never seen her this motivated. She's working 20 hours a week, maintaining her grades, and she's applied for every scholarship and grant available. She even moved out of her apartment and into a shared dorm room to save money." Maya had moved back into the dorms. The girl who'd been living like a princess was now sharing a room and working at a coffee shop. Is she okay?" I asked. "She's struggling, I won't lie. But she's not giving up. And honestly, I think this experience is good for her. She's finally taking ownership of her education." After Dr. Collins hung up, I sat in my office staring at the phone. Maya was working. Maya was trying. Maybe I'd done the right thing. A week later, I got another call. This time from Maria, the manager of the campus coffee shop. "Are you Alex Parker, Maya's sister?" "Yes." "I hope you don't mind me calling. Maya gave me your number in case of emergencies. I wanted to tell you about your sister." Here it comes, I thought. She's complaining about the work, or she's causing problems, or she's demanding special treatment. "She's remarkable," Maria said. "I've managed this coffee shop for 6 years, and I've never had a student employee work as hard as Maya. She's here every morning at 5 a.m., she stays late when we need her, and she never complains. The other students love her." I almost dropped the phone. This was not the Maya I knew. "She talks about you all the time," Maria continued, "about how hard you work, about your business. She's incredibly proud of you." Proud of me. The sister who'd called me an embarrassment was now telling strangers she was proud of me. "She's saving every penny she earns," Maria added. "Lives on ramen noodles and peanut butter sandwiches. She's trying to pay for next semester herself." After that call, I couldn't concentrate on work. All I could think about was Maya working 5 a.m. shifts and eating ramen noodles, trying to figure out how to pay for college on her own. 2 months later, on a Tuesday afternoon, I was in my office doing paperwork when Emma knocked on my door. "Alex, there's someone here to see you." I looked up to see Maya standing in my doorway. But this wasn't the Maya from the dinner party. Her hair was in a simple ponytail, she was wearing jeans and a coffee shop t-shirt, and she looked tired. Really tired. "Hi," she said quietly. "Hi." We stared at each other for a long moment. "Can I come in?" I nodded, and she stepped into my office, looking around like she'd never seen it before, which I realized she probably hadn't. In 8 years, Maya had never once visited me at work. "I wanted to see what you do," she said. "I wanted to understand." She looked at my desk covered with invoices and work orders and customer files. She looked at the pictures on my wall, the certificates, the thank you notes from satisfied customers. "I never realized," she said softly. "I mean, I knew you had a business, but I never really understood what that meant." I didn't say anything. I just watched her take it all in. "Can I ask you something?" she said finally. "Sure." Will you take me on a job? I want to see what you actually do." The next morning, Maya met me at the office at 6 a.m. She looked nervous, dressed in old jeans and sneakers she'd borrowed from someone her hair pulled back in a messy bun. For the first time in years, she looked like the sister I remembered. "Where are we going?" she asked as we loaded tools into my truck. "Emergency call, the Meridian office complex downtown. Their entire HVAC and water system went down overnight. 23 floors, 800 employees, and they need it fixed by 9 a.m. or they'll have to shut down for the day." Her eyes went wide. "That's a lot of pressure. Welcome to my world." The drive downtown was quiet. Maya kept looking out the window, then at me like she was seeing everything for the first time. When we pulled up to the Meridian complex, she saw the chaos waiting for us. 3 other service trucks building maintenance running around like their hair was on fire, and a very stressed-looking building manager pacing by the entrance. "Alex, thank God you're here." The manager, Mr. Peterson, rushed over as soon as we got out. "We've got water backing up in the basement, no heat on floors 12 through 20, and the main water line to the restaurant is completely shot." Maya watched as I grabbed my clipboard and started taking notes, asking questions, organizing the crisis in my head. "Okay, here's what we're going to do," I told the assembled crew. "Tom, take your guys to the basement and focus on the backup. Sarah's team handles the heating issues upstairs. Maya and I will tackle the main water line." "Maya," Mr. Peterson looked confused. "My assistant," I said without missing a beat. For the next 4 hours, Maya watched me work. Really work. She saw me crawl under pipes in a cramped basement coordinate with 3 different crews over radio and troubleshoot problems that would have stumped most people. She watched me direct grown men twice my size make split-second decisions that affected hundreds of people and solve problems that seemed impossible. At one point, we hit a major snag. The main water line had a crack we couldn't reach without shutting down water to the entire building. Maya watched as I called the city water department, negotiated a temporary bypass, and coordinated with the fire department to ensure safety compliance, all while keeping 800 office workers updated through the building manager. "How do you know all this?" Maya asked during a brief break. "Experience, training, and a lot of trial and error over the years." She looked at me differently then, like she was seeing me for the first time. When we finally got everything running again, Mr. Peterson was practically in tears with relief. "Alex, you saved our entire day. Possibly our week. I don't know what we would have done without you." "Just doing my job," I said, but Maya heard the pride in my voice. As we packed up our tools, Maya was quiet, thoughtful. "Alex, yeah, you're not just a plumber." I looked at her. "What do you mean, you're a leader? All those people, they looked to you for answers. They trusted you to fix their problems. 800 people got to keep their jobs today because you knew what to do." We drove back to the office in silence. Maya kept staring out the window, processing what she'd seen. That evening, she came to my house. This time, she didn't march in making demands. She knocked softly and waited for me to invite her in. "I need to say something," she said once we were sitting in my living room. I waited. "I was wrong about everything." Her voice was shaking. "I wanted status so badly that I forgot where I came from. I forgot who raised me. I forgot that the reason I even had the opportunity to want those things was because of you." Tears started flowing down her cheeks. "What you do matters, Alex. You matter. You keep people's lives running. You solve problems that actually affect real people. And I was ashamed of that because some spoiled rich kids thought it wasn't prestigious enough." She was crying harder now, years of guilt and realization hitting her all at once. "I called you embarrassing. God, Alex, I called you embarrassing when you're the strongest, most capable person I know. When you're the person who gave up everything so I could have a chance at a better life." I moved to sit next to her on the couch. "I don't expect you to forgive me," she continued. "I don't even know if I can forgive myself. But I needed you to know that I see it now. I see what I became, and I hate it. I hate who I was." We sat there crying together, 8 years of hurt and misunderstanding finally coming to the surface. "I want to make this right," Maya said finally. "I don't know how, but I want to try." I looked at my sister, really looked at her. The makeup was gone, the designer clothes were gone, but something else was there now. Something real, something like the girl I'd raised. I have an idea, I said. What? You need a job, right, to pay for school? She nodded. I need someone to help Emma with scheduling and customer service. Part-time flexible hours so you can keep going to school. It doesn't pay much, but it's honest work. Her face lit up. You'd let me work for you after everything out, on one condition. Anything. You transfer to the community college. Get your degree in business or accounting or something practical. I'll help with the tuition, but you pay your own living expenses. Deal, she said without hesitation. Thank you, Alex. Thank you for not giving up on me. The next few months were a revelation. Maya threw herself into learning the business with the same intensity she'd once applied to impressing rich people. She learned scheduling software, customer service protocols, and basic plumbing terminology. She enrolled in night classes at the community college studying business administration. Emma was skeptical at first, but Maya won her over with hard work and genuine enthusiasm. Customers loved her on the phone. She was organized, professional, and surprisingly good at handling difficult situations. More importantly, Maya seemed to remember who she really was. She started eating dinner with me again, sharing stories about her classes and her coworkers. She talked about her plans for the future, but now they were realistic plans based on what she was learning and earning. She even started dating someone new. Carter was a junior at the community college studying sustainable engineering. He drove a beat-up Honda and worked at a hardware store to pay for school. When Maya brought him to dinner, the first thing he said to me was, "Maya tells me you run an amazing business. I'd love to hear about it." No embarrassment, no shame, just genuine interest in my work and respect for what I'd built. 6 months later, Maya graduated from community college with her associate's degree in business administration. She'd made the dean's list both semesters while working 25 hours a week. "I want to stay," she told me the day after graduation. "I know I could transfer to a 4-year school, but I like what we're building here. I want to help grow the business. Maybe someday we could expand, hire more people, take on bigger commercial jobs." That was the moment I knew I had my sister back. Not the entitled college student or the insecure social climber, but the smart, determined girl I'd always known she could be. A year after that awful Christmas dinner, we hosted Thanksgiving at my house. Maya cooked most of the meal herself, including our mother's green bean casserole. Carter was there, along with Heather and Emma and a few other close friends. As we sat around my dining room table, Maya stood up with her wine glass. "I want to make a toast," she said. "To my sister Alex, who taught me that true success isn't about labels or status or impressing people who don't matter. It's about character, it's about working hard and treating people with respect and building something real." She looked directly at me. "Alex, you saved my life twice. Once when our parents died and once when you forced me to grow up. I'm sorry it took me so long to appreciate everything you've done. I love you." Everyone raised their glasses, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Complete. Like my family was finally whole again. Later that night, after everyone had gone home, Maya and I were cleaning dishes in the kitchen. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't cut off my tuition?" she asked. I thought about it. "You probably would have graduated from Eastwood, maybe married Ryan, spent your life trying to keep up with people who never really accepted you anyway." "I would have been miserable," she said quietly. "Rich and educated and completely miserable." "Maybe, but you would have had the degree," she smiled. "I'd rather have this. I'd rather have a sister who respects me and work that I'm proud of and a life that's actually mine." As I watched Maya dry the dishes, humming softly to herself, I realized something important. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone isn't what they want. It's forcing them to discover what they actually need. Maya had wanted status and wealth and acceptance from people who looked down on her family. What she needed was to remember where she came from, to value honest work, and to understand that the love of family is worth more than all the designer clothes and fancy parties in the world. And me, I thought I needed Maya's gratitude and recognition to feel good about the sacrifices I'd made. What I actually needed was to stop sacrificing my own happiness for someone else's dreams, and to remember that love doesn't mean enabling bad behavior. That Christmas dinner disaster had felt like the end of everything. But really, it was the beginning. The beginning of Maya becoming the woman our parents had always hoped she'd be. The beginning of me learning that sometimes you have to let people fall to help them learn how to stand. And sometimes, just sometimes, it takes losing everything to finally see what matters most. Have you ever had to make a tough choice with family? Sometimes love means saying no. If this story resonated with you, hit that subscribe button for more real family stories. And let me know in the comments. Do you think I did the right thing?